can I make it the distance? And what do I want that distance to look like? And that's really stems from an injury I had in college. So I was, on the varsity team, just kicking butt, taking names. And then I tore 2 discs in my lower back.
Damn.
And so that really sidelined me, but I was still, defining myself as a rower. This is who I am. And I struggled and worked my butt off to get back on the team. So I did a lot of rehab and just, worked my tail off to get back on the team, but it just wasn't what it used to be. And so I kept kind of falling behind and getting pushed further back. And my coach would take video and he'd be like, your legs are just slow. And he kept pushing me back further in the team. I went to, from the varsity boat to the JV boat and then to the 3V boat because my nerves just weren't firing the way they should because of the back injury that I had. Mm-hmm. And it really all came to a head when I met with my doctor. My doctor said, look, do you want to have kids someday?
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jarrett Basson with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Everyday Athlete, a podcast devoted to bringing you the amazing stories behind the lives of day-to-day CrossFit athletes like yourself. And today we have a wonderful guest, Jenny Beene-Skuban. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you? On her lunch break?
Yes.
So I guess it's not morning. I always say good morning. It's good afternoon right now.
Good after whatever.
Good afternoon, morning. Yeah, whenever. So welcome. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Well, let's just start off. Where are you from?
I am from Northern Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I grew up, I was born in Lakeside Park, Kentucky, not far from here, and then moved to Fort Thomas.
Yeah.
And cake eater.
Oh.
So.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I went to school all of my formative years.
Yeah.
Graduated from Highlands.
Graduated from Highlands.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people from that area speak of it as like if it's like the city of Atlantis, like it's carved from marble and streets are paved with gold kind of thing.
I don't know that I would say that about Fort Thomas. I mean, it's a wonderful community. I still have a lot of friends who live there, and I think if I could find a home in Fort Thomas, I probably would be living there. But because my parents moved there when I was in first grade, we are not from Fort Thomas. There's like that.
It's funny. Like the Fort Thomas thing is like the East Side West Side thing with Cincinnati. Yeah, it's like, where are you from? I don't know what it is. Mark, can you attest to that from not being here, being from here? Like here?
I've actually called Fort Thomas the Kentucky version of the West Side.
Yeah,
it's very tight knit.
Yes,
and everyone kind of knows everyone, so on and so forth. But we were out last night at GameWorks in Newport for my wife's work party, and no matter where you go, you run into someone probably from Fort Thomas. For Jenny, for Jarrett, it's from the West Side, and they're like, "Well, where'd you go to elementary, and where'd you go
to high school?"
And it's just da 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 da. I can almost like predict the questions that are coming, and it was the same kind of deal. Like my wife moved to the West Side at age 8, and I can kind of see the girl like, oh, so you weren't like born here.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you're not a real citizen.
Yeah.
Right.
You were here in second grade.
and for Fort Thomas, it's your parents didn't grow up in Fort Thomas, so therefore you're not really from Fort Thomas.
Yeah. That's so funny.
So it's really kind of. Hopefully it's not as cliquey as it was, or maybe
I'm sure
projecting.
Because all those people just probably stayed there and didn't leave.
Let me see your genealogy
right.
and your family. Let me see your family
like
tree
having a passport.
Right now.
Little guy just in a little stand,
come in and out of Fort Thomas.
Where do you live now?
I live in Anderson Township on the east side of Cincinnati. So we made the jump.
Yeah, puddle jumpers.
I'm a Yankee now.
People treat the Ohio River as if it was the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
There are people.
I feel that way sometimes when I'm trying to commute home.
Yeah.
How long does it take to get across this bridge?
Two things. We had John Carrick on the podcast not that long ago, but remember when we tried to do the poker night?
Oh yeah.
And we had one at the gym, and like a bunch of people showed up, and it was probably 5 or 6 people. It was a fun time. They're like, all right, well, John has this amazing studio downtown A Street. Let's just have it there. He's going to let us use it. And Mark and I were the only ones that showed up because I think it's
Ohio.
it's Ohio. It's like, well, I can't possibly go
Can't
CrossFit
go
there. Anyways, and then what was I going to say? I don't know. Whatever.
I feel like that's probably common in all those like border, like Louisville might be the same way with like Indiana. I don't know.
What's across the border from Louisville?
That's Indiana.
No. What's the
the
direct city? Is there a city directly? Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get back to Jenny. Hey, Jenny, how's it going?
Hey.
So you're in move over to Anderson. How did you kind of go from Fort Thomas? So where did you go to college?
I went to Yale.
Yale. Oh man. Yeah.
Mm.
So and that's where I think you're the only one that has rowing experience in the gym, and you were on their, is it rowing team?
Yes.
It's called a rowing team.
Or a crew.
Crew.
It's not
Okay.
a crew
There you
team.
go.
That's redundant. It's a crew or a rowing team. One or the other.
That would make sense. Yeah, you wouldn't have a crew team because a crew is already
It's already
group
a
of
collection of people.
people. Yeah, fantastic. So how'd you get into that?
I started rowing in high school, actually. So I was a dancer. I did ballet, and I decided that was way too much of a time commitment, oddly enough. And then I went into rowing, which is even more of a time commitment.
Yeah, we've talked a couple times. Like, well, what's the longest you've ever rowed? I'm like, I would just sit there for a couple hours.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I row like 1,000 meters. I'm like, I never want to do this again. Every time I'm on the rower.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's a passion then that kind of. What was it about rowing that kind of spoke to you?
I'm terrible at ball sports.
Okay.
So even though I'm tall, you would think, oh, basketball, right? Automatic, think basketball, volleyball, whatever. Any object that comes flying at me, I run in fear. I can't handle it. So
all the burpee knockout games that we play.
Yeah.
You missed today. We had a new game.
No, I was there.
Right, she
I
was
there
there.
this morning.
Oh,
6:30
sorry.
Staple.
I was taking care
right.
of Corolla. That's right.
Yeah. No, I was
How'd
there.
you do, Mark?
Good.
We did okay because it was more like a thing coming at another object and not so much at me.
Yeah. Okay.
There was not the ball that I had to handle. It was like I could protect myself.
Right.
So that I do a little bit better with, but
Valid.
ball sports are generally not my forte. So when I saw this sport that was just you do your own thing, you're there and you've got your own space, and it's just face off, who's better, who can get there fastest. I really took to that, and I was never a runner per se, but rowing just really kind of spoke to me.
And we've watched enough people row, and just physics takes over. If you are taller, like you're just automatically going to be pretty decent at rowing as long as you can do it correctly.
Right.
You're just going to have a longer pull. So what for those? Because again, we've talked a little bit about like kind of the sport of it. What makes it the sport? So there's probably different distances and different ways to do it correct?
There's two different distances depending on the season. So if you're competing in the spring, then that's spring racing season. Those are generally called sprint races. And so in high school and college, that's a 2K. That's your distance. And then as you get older, they shorten the distance. So for masters, it's 1K in sprints.
Okay.
Us old people, we can't go that far.
1K sprint.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty awful. That sounds really
terrible.
bad.
But the 2K is the standard distance also for kind of Olympic sports and those kind of competitive sports where you take it up to the next level. It's generally a 2K.
Okay.
And then in the fall, you have head races, and head races are roughly 3 miles. And those go over kind of winding courses. So here we've hosted head races on the Licking River before. Where you can imagine, and it's not a start where everybody lines up together and then you start all at once. It's just you racing against the clock. But because
like
you're
a
all
time trial type thing.
Yeah, but because you're all on the same course, you can pass other boats, and there's rules about how you pass and how you take turns.
Yeah, because you have physical oars that are out of the water. You're not going to be.
You're taking up a lot of space on the river.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So what? What's the question? Oh, so I've also seen. You said it's just you and the water, but if you're on a crew, is there just ones where it's just you and then more and more people?
Yeah.
How many different variations of that are there?
Yeah, you can row a single, so that's just you riding a pencil, essentially balancing yourself with those blades. It's akin more towards when you think of a tightrope walker, and that's how you think of the balance.
Yeah.
because what the oars are doing are dropping your center of gravity down below you. So if you let go of those oars, it's just you kind of sitting on this tiny little thing.
Oh man.
So you always have to hang on to the oars. So there's a single, and then in single, when you're rowing a single, obviously you have 2 oars, one on each side. And then as the boats get bigger, those rules don't necessarily apply. So you can row what's called a double, and a double, each person has 2 oars. And then you can row a pair, each person has 1 oar, and those are really tippy.
Yeah, I'll bet. You got to be definitely in unison on that, I bet.
And there's also coxed pairs. So that's 2 people rowing, each person has 1 oar plus a coxswain. That is a slow boat.
Oh man. That sounds
Are the oars typically attached, or can they just kind of be held freely?
That would be more like canoeing, right? Like where you're
Yeah.
No, not like canoe. So you have what's called an oar lock. It's like a mechanism. It's like a U-shaped thing that has a little gate on top, and so you put the oar in there, so you can move the oar kind of around in there, but it's
locked. Yeah.
it's locked down, so you can't just kind of lift it out and
Right.
smack people with it.
I'm
But,
passing
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's more like whitewater rafting.
Yeah, right.
yeah, kind of assault with the oar. It
Yeah,
doesn't really happen.
What is there as far as the feeling on the there's obviously a difference. Like what's the biggest difference in feeling the feeling in water versus something just like rowing on an erg? Like because you don't use these for anything except practice, just conditioning, right?
Winter training,
yeah, because you're not going to be out in the water when it's 13 degrees.
Right. The main difference really is the feel, is the balance and the movement with the other people. So on the rowing machine, that's just you. It's not going anywhere. It's pretty steady. But on the boat is going to tip back and forth. You have to balance. You have to also work with the other person in the boat, because if you're not moving together, then it's just going to be a disaster, and you're going to go swimming.
Yeah.
So
Couple.
I really would love to take
I think it'd be super
everybody
fun.
here and just kind
Yeah.
of be like, hey, rowing day, who wants to come out and try it out in the boat, and just see how many people end up in the water.
Yeah.
This guy.
Is it hard to get your hands on like a boat?
There are a couple of rowing clubs
Okay.
around Cincinnati.
We can definitely make that happen.
Well,
We would
there's
have enough interest.
There's a Learn to Row Day, and usually boathouses open up their doors for Learn to Row Day, and it's like a national Learn to Row Day kind of thing. And
cool.
so most boathouses, it's usually in June. So you'll find boathouses here too. There's 2 rowing clubs here that may kind of say, hey, open day, anybody who wants to can come.
We'll
So-
have to definitely check that out. I have 2 more questions about rowing, then we'll move on because we can probably talk about this all day. And I think I've asked you a couple times before, and one of those is, and I know you've talked in class because we kind of put you on the spot from time to time, is the damper.
Yes.
So a lot of people will throw that damper up thinking we're going to get more meters per pull. And how exactly is that affecting their row?
So the lighter it feels, it's just kind of the point of the damper really, I think originally was to adjust based on water speed. So depending on what kind of body of water you're rowing in is how heavy it's going to feel. So when you think
You're
about that
rowing
on the rowing
against a
machine,
current.
right? If you're rowing against a current, it's going to feel really heavy.
Yeah.
And sometimes we also use a thing. We put a bungee around a boat to create drag in order to do some kind of heavier training. And so that you can create that effect on the rowing machine pretty easily by slamming it all the way down. But when you have that all the way, I think it's all the way open. I never adjust it. I really don't.
Yeah.
So
one is the damper is actually closed,
Yeah.
meaning it's pulling in less air. 10 is it's all the way open, pulling more air in.
right. So it makes it easier at 10. You
Harder
feel-
at 10,
Okay.
easier at
Yeah,
1.
it's closed. Yeah.
So it's harder at 10, and the harder you feel that. And the other thing is the machine adjusts for this. So if you think that you're going to get more meters because it feels harder, you're not.
Yeah.
Because the machine is adjusting for where the damper is. It knows all of that kind of thing. So you're just basically getting a different type of workout. You're working your muscles more, I think.
Than aerobic.
Yeah,
capacity
than
type of
aerobic
thing.
if you're doing that. And so when I talk to people about rowing and their approach to rowing in the context of CrossFit workouts, if you're doing a rowing workout along with a bunch of other things, and say all the other things that you're doing are lifting. So you're doing a bunch of other kind of Olympic lifts, and then you're rowing. So when you're lifting, you're working the muscles, less
Right.
the lungs. So when you get on the rowing machine to give yourself a break, then it's better, I think, to do a higher stroke rating and less work with your muscles, and you use your lungs more to give your muscles a little bit of a break.
It's a valid approach.
On the other hand, if you're doing like a running and rowing and a bunch of other stuff that maybe are working your lungs more, take the stroke rating down, work your muscles more, and give your lungs a bit of a break.
And just for those that might be listening that don't know what the heck a stroke rating is at the bottom left corner of the screen.
Usually.
More
strokes per minute.
Yeah.
Strokes per minute. Yeah.
Right.
So I try to point that out to. I feel like that's probably one of the biggest mistakes people make, especially whenever they're beginning, and whenever you see the fail videos on rowing, it's like they're going in and out like 50 strokes a minute or whatever it is, and not even really pulling. So,
there's no grace to it. There's a movement that's involved with it, just like running. That'd be the equivalent of you just running down the street flailing and just all over the place.
There's a technique to running too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's and I've obviously watched several videos on rowing and stuff like that, but it is very similar to Olympic lifting, and as far as you're kind of initiating the movement with the legs and then the hips and then into the arms. And then the same way, obviously, you're reversing it on the return. And whenever you violate those principles, just like in Olympic lifting, you're not going to be as efficient on the rower. In the same way that we kind of try to program, if you will, people to row consistently like a robot. Same way with our Olympic lifts. Whenever we're like, all right, go to the high hang, it's just like, all right, I should automatically know I'm in the balls of my feet, and my shoulders are back, and this is where the bar goes. So it's just that repetition, and then hopefully it just becomes like subconscious,
second nature.
Yeah,
it's harder to figure out the transfer because you're not dealing with your own body weight is not giving you that feedback that it would be if you were standing on your feet and doing the same type of motion.
Right.
Because you're sitting on the seat, you don't really feel the transfer of weight maybe from the balls of your feet to the heels, and it's a little bit more abstract, but that concept is definitely the same.
Fantastic. We'll come back around to the CrossFit stuff here in a little bit, because I do want to talk about how you kind of got into this, and we've been with this for quite a few years now. So, so you went to Yale, went into rowing. What was the next step for you after graduation and all that?
Like life-wise?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, where are you at right now?
Well, so I graduated from college and I ended up moving to Munich for about a year and a half. So
just for fun?
For work.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was an exchange student in high school for a year in Germany, so I speak German. So I went back to Germany and I ended up working there for a while. Really loved it. Absolutely great experience. But career-wise, it wasn't really much of a career where I was. So I came back and I started working for the same company that I had been working for there. They had an office in Cincinnati, and I worked for them for a couple of years. And for me, it was just like pushing paper from one side of my desk to the other.
So not extremely fulfilling.
Not really. I mean, a lot of people love that kind of work, but it was just not really for me. Of course, people probably argue that's what I'm doing now. But from there, I went to law school.
Okay.
And so I went full-time 3 years, got my law degree, and kind of bounced around a little bit. I had my own practice for a while, which was convenient for starting a family. I kind of could scale back the time that I spent with my clients and not take as many clients, and then ramp it back up again as my kids got a little bit more self-sustaining. So, yeah. And then it's been about 2 years, I think. I've been working for CrossFit, so I'm in-house counsel. They're general counsel for a company. That's a German-based company, so that's kind of the connection.
Yeah, no, so I could definitely see that. So what, I guess, you as your kids are getting a little bit older and, you're kind of finding, is it easier now to, find a home in CrossFit do you feel like you're busier, less busy? I mean, running your own practice you can scale things back, but you still have to make a living.
Sure.
Right.
My husband reminded me of that.
That's right. I just saw a post that he was going to buy a record player, and you reminded them that he had some two small children at home.
Yeah.
But so do you find it now, you're kind of, you think you found a home with this place and something you can kind of, the stability in your life is kind of being built back now that the kids are a little bit older, right? You're pretty much a staple here at the 6:30 a.m.
Love it.
Yeah, it's
6:30 peeps.
It's a crew, man. They are.
We're a ragtag group, but
yeah, it's like the Bad News Bears, right? So what kind of drew you into CrossFit in the first place?
my husband got into CrossFit a long time ago. I think it was before maybe there were even any CrossFit gyms here in the greater Cincinnati area. Maybe there were one or two, definitely not the number that there were now. And he was doing the workouts from the website. So he had gotten into that, was really gung-ho about it, and I thought, this is the worst thing anybody can ever do. Because,
fair.
yeah, because
That's how I want to open up the podcast with that. I always put that little, this is the worst thing you could ever do.
I mean, like doing it by yourself with no
No.
training and no coaching and no knowledge of how to do these lifts. And he had never been through I being on a Division I college athletic team, I had a lot of coaching.
Sure.
I had lifting, we had a weights coach who would come and show us how to do lifts, and I'm familiar with all that stuff, and so and he didn't have that experience, and I'm just like, you're gonna kill yourself.
So you're like, were you like observing him working out, like cringing a little bit, like, ooh,
what are you doing?
Stop that.
Hold on, let me check our insurance.
Yeah. He actually, I think he ended up injuring himself once or twice, but overall it was not as bad as I thought it would be. But he was really into it, and so he got a couple of our friends into it, Kara and Nate, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
He started talking to them about it. They found Jim in Covington, started going there, and I went there for a while, in between kids, I think. So I've been off and on in CrossFit for, 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah. And then, so you took some time off, and then that's when you kind of came back out to us, correct?
Yeah.
Because we're pretty convenient towards your work. I mean,
Yes.
obviously we're not convenient towards Anderson.
No.
So I think there's a couple things there where, we talk a lot about people that if you have people move on and leave and things like that. I think convenience is number one for a lot of people. You have to be something that is close enough for you to get up at 5 whatever in the morning and make it over here for 6:30 a.m. class, correct? And then 2, I think maybe you can speak on some of the other things that maybe you look for, and maybe again, not just give us a pat on the back, but what is it, things that kind of make you stay and make you kind of want to keep coming back to somewhere. And it can maybe just not even us, maybe it could be any brand or any store that you regularly visit.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important for not just us to understand, for anyone who's kind of frequenting a certain establishment. There's a reason you keep going back, and I'm always interested to figure out why that is.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was really, it's the community. I have a demanding job, and I have, a lot going on at home, and this is kind of, I don't have a lot of time to socialize. I just recently had lunch with a friend, and she's like, you're really busy. Do you ever get out?
Yeah.
I'm like, actually, this is kind of what I consider to be my getting out. It's kind of my me time. It's my time for, for taking care of my body and for my mind. And then also, I like the people here.
Yeah.
And I feel comfortable here. And it just depends on what you like. There's some places that maybe call to people more than others, just depending on kind of your personality and how you are. And so maybe this wouldn't be perfect for everybody, but I love the camaraderie. I love the encouragement that everybody gives each other. And I think it just, it starts from the ground up and in every single class, and you just, I don't know, I like everybody here. So
yeah. Well, I think that's what it comes down to, at least for us, for Mark and I and the coaches, is really just being comfortable with who we are. I think for a long time, I don't say a long time, but when we originally took over, it's like we had this identity of, well, we're just going to come in, we're going to change everything, and but not until we start building into people like yourself and everyone else at the gym, then you really find out like what we're actually about and what we're actually about.
It wasn't always obvious that
no.
Maybe it's still your thunder, but it wasn't always obvious that we're in the business of relationships.
Yeah.
And it's not even really our relationships. It's not, necessarily us and Jenny and so on and so forth. I always kind of make the joke or whatever. It's like, I wish I'm not even like top 10 coolest people here. It's, we praise our members.
It's the reason we have these podcasts.
Yeah, we build them up, and exactly. So get the stories out, but kind of to your point, like you said, you called this like your me time. Like for a long time, for me personally, I thought my me time was going to the gym, but that consisted of me putting my headphones on and a hood up, and like doing a set of bench every 15 minutes. Yeah. And you don't know what you don't know sometimes, and it's like it is so much what I want to say, more advantageous, at least to just life in general, to be around people. Right. Like don't like try to be this lone wolf like mentality. Like it's a myth. Like the lone wolf isn't the strong one, it's the pack.
Right. And when I say me time, I really, like you were saying, not so much me being here by myself. It's my me time in that it's time that I take for myself. And that doesn't mean that I'm by myself. It means that I'm doing something that is just for me. And this place is really my happy place for a lot of different reasons, for the athletic reasons, as well as for the social reasons, and just for the camaraderie.
Yeah, we've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, but I think it's a good point to bring up almost every time, which is, when we look at this place, it needs to be a sanctuary for people to come to. Like that's why we try and invest so much into the people here, into the equipment, into trying to keep it as clean as possible, into trying to improve it whenever we can, because we want it to be a place that people want to go, and not just a place that they're going to come in, work out for an hour, and see you later. It absolutely can be, and you can be 100% happy with that. But we also want to be able to have a holiday party, for
Christmas party.
That
was fun.
It's like I want to be able to have, and I think it was almost blew me away a little bit when Melanie showed me the photo of the very first one with 13 people. Yeah. And I didn't even count the amount of people that were in that last photo, but there was probably 70 plus. Yeah. And that wasn't even everyone that was here. Right. So it was just cool to see, fostering a sense of community, fostering a sense of just togetherness, and what that can actually do for just everyone here. There's so many people that we've met along the way that have now become friends, that have been to weddings together and stuff like that. And it's weird outside of a CrossFit gym atmosphere to be like, yeah, this guy goes to my gym. Right. Like, no, but he's my friend too.
Yeah. And for me, because I have, I have all this other stuff going on, I love coming here and seeing people that I do consider my friends, even though I don't have a lot of time to spend with them outside of here, especially because I live, really far away from everybody. But I do consider them to be my friends, and I'm borrowing DVDs from Mike Whalen, and we're just it's a community. It really is a community. No matter where you live, you come here and you spend time here, and you're a part of the community, and it's kind of a part of me being happy in how my life is structured. I have my work, I have my family, and I have the things that I do for myself, and this is a huge part of what I do for myself.
And not to mention just the depth of the amount of stuff that people do here. We have law advice. We have you need an electrician.
Sure.
Now with I was just talking to Bree. It's like her husband. So you need a roofer. Do you need a carpenter?
I think it's literally
barber.
Literally. I think it's the best thing you can do if you're out of town and you're trying to get plugged into the community. Like we had a guy just start, doesn't know anyone. He's been in Florence for about a year. Real intelligent young kid, engineer. I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, I just work, pretty much all the time. I'm like, well, you just got like 100 more friends.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think he even had an issue with something going on with his car or whatever. I'm like, I'm sure there's someone here that can minimally point you in the right direction. Yeah. If you just post it on our Facebook.
It's like a living directory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Really what it comes down to.
So,
and they're all great
definitely
people.
Helps. Yeah. And exactly. It's not like, well, I'm going to recommend this guy and good luck.
Yeah. I want to take a very quick break and come back and talk a little bit about Jenny's future with us and why she's so awesome. We'll be right back.
Well, I didn't really start exercising much at all until I was probably in my late 20s, kind of mid-children. I was a big runner for a long time, did 7 or 8 half marathons. I loved running, at the end of my last half marathon, ended up with stress fracture in my leg. Finished that half marathon, and of course at that point it was like, well, I can't run because I have a stress fracture, so I was looking for something different. One of my friends actually worked out at Covington, and I went there with her and fell in love with it. I started there about 3 years ago, and then I came here about 2.5 years ago, and I've been here ever since. It's very different than anything I've ever done. Little weights in the gym, like when I used to work out at LA Fitness, but nothing to this extreme, nothing to this level. And I do it because you hate yourself while you're doing it. You question your sanity, but when you're done, you feel like a whole new person. Definitely stronger. I definitely have more stamina. I feel better all the time. I sleep better. I make myself eat better, because if I don't eat better, then I feel terrible when I'm here. I have a pretty physical job and surgery, and so it helps a lot with that. But just being strong overall helps every aspect of your life. With your kids, I have a 10 and a 14-year-old. You can be super active with them. It's good for your mind, it's good for your body, all over. And I'm definitely stronger at 40 than I've ever been in my life. I like clean and jerk. I like split jerk. Not a big fan of the snatch, but I like to lift heavy overhead. That's my jam. Oh, absolutely, you're going to be nervous because you don't know what you do. You don't. I mean, you watch people and you go through the on-ramp class and you know the moves, but you have no idea what weight to use. You have no idea, getting all the equipment out and everything. But the good thing about this is that everybody's willing to help you. The coaches are awesome. They're going to tell you how to scale something if you're injured. They're going to tell you how to start things light, because the last thing you want is an injury. So there's really no reason to be nervous. There's always modifications. Everybody here is fantastic, and they'll help you get through it. I think you get a major accomplishment anytime you PR. I mean, the first 2 years you're at the gym, you're going to PR all the time, and you kind of think, oh, I'm just going to keep getting stronger. I'm going to keep getting stronger. And then you'll hit a plateau. I don't know if it's an age thing or if everybody hits a plateau. But then when you do hit that next level, that even if you PR just by 5 pounds and you hit it, you just feel like you won the lottery. Since I've been here 3 years, practically all of my best friends have come out of this gym. I've developed so many relationships. My husband comes here, we work out together, but I have several of my very best friends now that belong to this gym. I love this place.
Welcome back to the Everyday Athlete Podcast. We left talking a little bit. We talked about a lot of stuff, but coming back, maybe we'll take a step back and talk about your time at Yale. I think Mark brought that up because I think that is not very many people. I mean, I went to Bowling Green State University, and Mark went to UC.
That's like right underneath Yale.
It's Yale and then BGSU.
It's close.
It's close.
Well, one and the only time I went to Boston, it's obviously got a bunch of history there, but I specifically remember waking up in my hotel and we had a nice view or whatever, and you could, I don't know what river.
Charles.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
But there was the crew teams were out there on the water, and I mean it was early. It was like 7 a.m. Ish.
That's when you're coming off the water. At 7 a.m.
Okay. Yeah. It might have even been earlier because it was there for business and whatnot. But I vividly remember that, and they weren't just like, oh, we're just going for a little stroll. They were getting after it. I was really impressed. I was like, oh my goodness, these people, like the guys calling it out, and they're just ripping through the water. So I know that's like a really big deal with the Ivy League. I mean, that's so hats off to you for being able to do that and get some experience. And
on a strength level, have you seen things like heavy loads of squats and deadlifts? Do you think that has improved your ability to row better? Because when I look at the movement, again, I'm looking at a lot of glute and hamstring engagement, driving off the quads. Like, you have to have a strong lower body to drive off those pads. Like, have you seen any improvement, or just does it feel better?
I think so. I mean, I don't. We used to do a lot of weight training on the team, so we would row. Generally, the schedule was we'd row in the afternoons. We didn't do a lot of mornings just because of the way the Housatonic where we rode was probably about 20 minutes away from campus, so we had to take a bus, everything. Anyway, so we would row in the afternoons every afternoon during the week, plus we'd work out every morning So we'd have 2-a-days most days, and 2 or 3 of those days a week we'd do lifting plus rowing. And yeah, I mean, when we started the lifting program, in addition to just getting out in a boat, yeah, I mean, you saw big gains.
Yeah, because I can only
gains.
see that. It's one of those things that, like, again, just growing up playing soccer, it's like, oh, I need to lift. I just run,
Yeah.
And it's like, since I've gone and played intramural soccer, and I'm like, I'm faster than I've ever been at, almost double the age that I was playing, and it's one of those things where you're like, again, we've said it till we're blue in the face, like, if I had this when I was 16, it would be a completely different game.
Sure.
And Mark can attest to that with just the kids he's been training for a couple of years
I'm
now.
interested. What did your lifting look like? Were you guys doing like clean and jerks and snatching?
Yes.
And okay.
We were doing not so much snatches, but we were doing a lot
Power
more
cleans.
of the power cleans, deadlifts, all that kind of stuff. But a concern that we had to get over, and it was something that if you coach women at that age, that's something that you'll have to address, is the size. So is this going to make me big?
Right.
And
We deal with that.
Yeah.
still.
And that was always something that, it was a big deal for us.
Were you guys getting nutrition advice as well? Were you guys on like a meal plan with the school? Or
It was a
whatnot?
meal plan with the school, and essentially it was eat as much as you possibly can.
I can see that. I mean,
gotcha.
honestly,
Because you guys are burning a lot of energy,
Yeah.
calories,
Oh my gosh,
nonstop.
yeah.
I, mean,
I would
that's-
like to see the numbers on that. Like, if you're spending, like, how much time would you be on the rower or on the water for a practice?
Actively rowing, I'd say probably an hour and a half, maybe a little bit more.
And you're probably, if you had a guess, like what percentage of the max kind of heart rate, or does it fluctuate?
It fluctuated, I mean, depending on the workout.
Sure.
If you're training for the fall, they'd be just long rows. You'd be out for 2 hours, just steady state
Yeah.
for
I
2
gotcha.
hours. And then you have your workout in addition to that. So either you're lifting also in the morning, or you're also on the rowing machine in the morning, in addition to your afternoon rows.
That would actually probably be my nutritional advice. Just eat whatever you possibly
And that's
can.
what I did.
I mean, again, especially at
Yeah.
that age.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And my coach actually at the time, he was like, I want you to gain weight. Can you possibly gain weight? So I used to go, you'd eat at the dining halls, and you could only log in 3 times at the dining halls. And so then my parents gave me some extra money so that at like 9:30 p.m., me and a swimmer and a guy from the football team, we'd go to one of the local diners and just have a couple of burgers
Oh yeah.
at like 9:30.
Those were the days.
Let's go. Let's do that.
Yeah,
Let's do that tonight.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was like, amazing stuff.
Is it bad anytime I pass UC, the first thing I think of is like, oh, that cafe.
Yeah.
Or I used to
Chicago
have
Euros.
2 waffles and
Yeah.
omelet, pancakes, bacon.
Like, wasn't like,
potato.
remember all those parties?
Oh, man.
Like, no. Like, remember that food?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was the food.
So we
It really was.
We just had
I
an
mean-
engagement party, and it was like, remember the corner grill? Those fried cheese cubes. Yeah, those were great. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else.
And after Saturday morning practice, when the dining halls would open up, because we'd have morning practice and we'd be on the water for like 3 hours. It was ridiculous. We'd just be starving. And as soon as the dining halls open up, the women's team would just descend on one of
Like
the dining
knocking
halls.
people out of the way.
Seriously.
It's funny because when you say that, because you think about, you've all seen like the football, like the linemen, and they just got plates of food. I think it would be funny because it's just out of the blue almost. So you wouldn't expect it, just like this group of like women just descending and just crushing
We did.
everything on the buffet.
We did. We'd be like, there's a waffle maker, and somebody else would come up to the waffle maker and be like, "No, get out of the way. This is mom." And just,
We've got this reserved.
like
actually.
crowd around the waffle maker. You cannot.
You're like unplugging it, bringing it over to your table.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we really, but that was, with the lifting and the size thing, along with eating, that was always kind of a topic.
It's a huge, and it is, and it is crazy because we deal with it all the time. And it's like the thought is that you're going to walk up to a barbell and grab it, and you're going to have giant lats that no one's going to ever want to talk to you again. And it's like I say it jokingly, but I also say it seriously. In all seriousness, I've been trying to get bulky for many a year.
Me too.
It's not easy. Like it's if you watch the CrossFit Games, whether it's at a performance level or it's a visual level or even the regional level, it's those people, that is their life. Right. That is 100% what they do.
Right.
If you are using this as a fitness regimen to move correctly, move better, gain strength, and basically longevity on your life, you're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to explain that to someone who, especially male or female, you're talking about just body issues, especially now. 'Cause it's like, I mean, you open up Instagram, or you open up Facebook,
Right.
and everything's just in your face.
Yeah.
It's tough, and it was tough back then too. I mean, it was really kind of an issue, and we used to share time in the weight room with the football team. So the defensive line was in there at the same time that we were there. So that was fun. And you know, they're like, get off the platform, and we're like, no, you get off. You know, and just
I do not mess with strong independent women. It's just like, okay, it's all yours.
Yeah.
Whatever you need. Well, on a real life practical example, I know we're kind of joking about, you know, hitting the cafe in college and so on and so forth, but we see so many people that'll start this program that is CrossFit, or just say exercise in general, you know. And again, the saying right now is get off the couch, and off the couch, off the carbs is what CrossFit's really pushing. And when people do start this program, I would almost say a lot of people do undereat, and then whenever you start, you know, mixing in, you know, this type of fatigue on your body, understanding like you need to eat more, you know, you might need to eat more protein and so on and so forth. And I know for yourself and us that we've been doing it for a little while now, but especially whenever people are first starting out and they're getting, you know, into this program, they're hitting these lulls in the day or what have you. And it's like, you know, or people will come in here, you know, for a 5:30 p.m. class, and it's like, all right, when's the last time you ate? I had a banana for lunch. You know, whatever it is. And it's kind of wrapping that head around it. Obviously not, you know, we're not rowing 3 hours a day, but at the same time, like understanding like, hey, you know, I might need to grab a protein shake, or I might need to bridge the gap between lunch and my workout with a healthy snack. Or
Sure.
We've had plenty of people talk to Andy, and you know, the data doesn't lie. When you run the numbers, it's like you are under eating. You know, but again, it always goes back to, well, I don't want to gain weight, you know, and it really comes down to like, you will still be healthy,
Right.
You know, you're going to feel better if you know, it's not always, not everyone is overeating.
And weight is a number that doesn't tell you what it is.
Right.
Is it muscle? Is it fat? What is
Right.
it made out of? And it's just a number, you know, it's not.
yeah, you can't obsess.
And I'm working with Andy now, actually,
Yeah.
and I've been super happy, and it's been a couple of months now. And at first, you know, we were just focusing on calories, and now we're really breaking it down to macros. And I've been thinking about a lot more of what it is that I'm putting in my body, and how much of each thing am I putting in my body. And when I fall off the wagon for, you know, a party or two, now that we're at the holiday season,
Yep, sure.
I can certainly tell, and I'm so much more in tune with it. And I think it took a couple of years of me just first getting the workout portion set. I don't know if that's the same for a lot of people, but
Sure.
first I was like, I'm just going to come in here and
Yeah.
I'm just making this, I'm going to make this something that I do in my life,
Yeah.
and I'm going to make it a habit and make it turn into a habit. And now I'm starting to move into the nutrition portion and try to make that a habit too.
Yeah, it's the absolute foundation, you know. And again, it is a little backwards, so to say. And I think that's majority of people. I hedge my bet. Pretty much everyone will work out before they really get their nutrition dialed in, you know, and that's very, very common. But literally, if you just dial in your nutrition and mix in some working out, that would be way better than working out a ton and really just mixing in a salad here or there. You know what I mean? So it's really tough. You know, whenever people start up here, one of the things I always say is like, you're gonna grow to love this workout program. You know, ultimately, if it's a good fit for you, like this is gonna be the fun like part of your day. Like if we do it right, the workouts will be challenging. You'll learn new stuff. The war is in the kitchen, and it starts with just your preparation and your planning. Like just reserve that time, make your meals, and then like you said,
It's a struggle.
you can dial in the macro. You can start, you know, get your digital scale if you really want to fine tune all that stuff.
Right.
But by and large, it's just eat whole food. You know, eat stuff that's not processed.
And it depends on your goal too. I mean, if your goal is just, I just want to move my body, and I want to hang out with some people, and I want to release a little bit of tension, and you can certainly do that, and find a lot of people doing that, and it's awesome and it's fun, and I love it every single day. But if you want to go a little bit further, you know, if you want to work a little bit more on the physique and on, your training and everything else, you gotta put the nutrition in there.
Is that kind of where you think you're at right now? Yeah, just move it. I think it's a natural progression, honestly. And I'm not saying by no means you're plateauing, but I think you start to get comfortable with a lot of the movements. You're not going every class going like, wait, what is that one again?
Right.
You're starting to get comfortable, and it's like, okay, well, now I've learned this. Now what is the next step? And
Right.
that next step is
What's
generally going to be that nutritional aspect. I always tell people again during our intros, like, you will, if it's a weight loss thing, you will lose that weight here. You will definitely see body composition changes here, but you will step on the gas pedal if you add the nutritional aspect in. And it doesn't take a lot, especially right away.
Right. Right.
But again, for most people, including myself, I was in the same boat where it's like, oh, just keep working out, and it's like, oh, you can't work out anymore because everything hurts real bad.
Sure.
And it's like the next step has to be the nutritional stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think, to use an extreme example, be a weekend warrior for, like, just go crazy on say that you work out Monday through Friday and you eat pretty good on the weekends. All right, well, try one weekend where you just drink a bunch of beer.
This
and
weekend
eat a
will
bunch
be
of
a
pizza.
great example.
Yeah, it's
Holiday
Christmas.
coming up.
We're coming up on Christmas, and it's people are going to come back in the gym, or even New Year's is probably a better example. Whatever is your time that you really let loose, and you come back. And what CrossFit has really done for me is I'm just so much more aware of what I'm putting in my body, in the sense of I'm like, oh, like as I'm like drinking this fifth beer or whatever it is, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna feel this in the workout tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, you are a product of what you eat and how you feel.
Speaking of, I want to respect Jenny's time here, but two questions for you. One being on the nutritional side of things. What is it like for you having a family with small children and things like meal prep? So what's that kind of look for you? Because again, I think there are a lot of people out there that probably struggle with this. Not that you've got it like the answer, but I'm always interested to see what people do that may be different from someone else that helps them out.
It's breakfast and lunch for me, because those are the two meals that I don't eat with my family. So as long as I prep my breakfast and lunch, then I can get by on dinner.
And
Whatever.
and you're including family time.
Right.
You have to, again, there's a trade-off. It's like physique, or like I can be here, but I could be here and still have this family life.
Yeah, it's a balance. And so for me, it's on Sundays I try to figure out what I'm going to do. We look through the week and we decide what we're going to make, and I try to make family meals that are kind of macro, paleo, etc. friendly, but sometimes the kids just don't like that, and we gotta have spaghetti meatballs.
Yep.
It's just something that
Excellent choice.
that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything planned. My husband was out of town. I had to pull a frozen lasagna out of the freezer, and that's just something that you got to do.
Stouffer's?
No, I made it myself.
Oh,
man.
Homemade frozen lasagna.
She is
Oh,
talented.
have we not had that? Oh,
So-
all right. I thought we were friends, Jenny.
But there are those things that you do. I've had the sausage and spinach and sweet potato egg thing.
Yeah.
I've been eating on that this week.
Yeah.
And just kind of prepping my lunches and figuring out what to do for that, because those are the two meals that I can control more in my snacks during the day. I can control those a lot more than what I have with my family in the evenings. I try to make sure that I do something that is also healthy for me, but I have to consider what a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old are also going to eat.
Fantastic. And our last one, which is always fun, and you've listened to enough of these, so this one's coming. So your definition of fitness.
My definition of fitness is based in the long game. Can I make it the distance, and what do I want that distance to look like? And that's really stems from an injury I had in college. So I was on the varsity team, just kicking butt, taking names, and then I tore 2 discs in my lower back.
Damn.
And so that really sidelined me, but I was still, defining myself as a rower. This is who I am, and I struggled and worked my butt off to get back on the team. So I did a lot of rehab and just, worked my tail off to get back on the team, but it just wasn't what it used to be. And so I kept kind of falling behind and getting pushed further back. And my coach would take video and he'd be like, your legs are just slow. And he kept pushing me back further in the team. I went to, from the varsity boat to the JV boat and then to the 3V boat, because my nerves just weren't firing the way they should because of the back injury that I had. And it really all came to a head when I met with my doctor. My doctor said, look, do you want to have kids someday? And I said, yeah. And he said, do you want to ever be able to lift those kids?
Wow.
And I was like, okay,
That's heavy.
I guess I'm done. So I had to step away and recover for a while. And that really got me thinking about, what are my goals here? I mean, if my goal is to do whatever it takes to be the best at rowing right now, then yeah, I'm gonna murder my body. I'm just gonna get back into it, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes. But if my goal is the long game, if I want to lift my kids in 10 years, if I want to be there for my grandchildren, you know, that's fitness for me, is thinking about all of that down the road.
Yeah.
Serious perspective. And I look to my mom. She and I are actually going to be competing at World Rowing Championships.
That's awesome.
Coming
That's
up
awesome.
soon. And so she's in just amazing shape, and she really has it together. And I see that, and I think that's fitness. She's really, you know, she's 71, and
That's
just
amazing.
Wow.
she is rowing all the time and in great shape, and she can do things with her grandchildren. She can go on trips with them. She's really active and getting out there, and that's what I want. That's what I think fitness is
That's
you think about the long
a
game.
phenomenal answer, and it aligns exactly with what we want, you know, out of all of our clients. And you know, whenever someone is coming in for the first time, and you know, we're talking about what agreement they're going to go with, and we have a short-term option, and I tell them, and again, I don't want to sound like a money grab, but it really, what it comes down to is like, I don't care what you can do in 3 months. I actually don't care what you can do in a year. I care what you're going to look like 5 years down the road.
Right.
Because that's where the change happens.
Can we have like a 5-year membership option?
Yeah.
10-year membership
We can
option?
do that.
'Cause that's what
Yeah.
I would do.
I definitely do that. Yeah.
One of the things that popped in my head real quick, again, I know we're closing up. When you shared that example of that experience, I feel like it's becoming more and more in football. You know, that's what you're seeing. Like, I think some of these guys that are making millions of dollars playing NFL football, it's the short, like,
Sure.
I need to make these millions,
Sure.
you know, no
It's a
matter
short-term
what.
goal.
But what are they sacrificing?
Exactly.
You know, so it's like, all right, well, do I want to, you know, I think there was a linebacker that was like 2 years in the league or something, super young kid, was like, he's an all pro, he's like going to be one of the best, walked away. And everyone was like, what? Like, he had all that, you know, he was about to sign his biggest contract anyway. But it's really tough, because when you're in that moment, and it's like been your identity. I
Yeah,
think
that's
even
how you
said that.
define
Yeah.
yourself. That's who I was, and it was just like, whoa.
Well, that's
can't do
amazing
this.
to make that decision at that early of an age.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today. It was a pleasure having you.
fun.
And thank you all for listening to Everyday Athlete. Join us next week as we dive deep into the lives of those who make us great. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.